And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, I'm working on your financial freedom. As a matter of fact, let me change that statement, and I'm going to use the statement, we're working on your financial future, because it's not just me and the mouse in my pocket. I have Bob with me today. Now, just to give you an idea of who Bob is, and he's a real live human being, he is somebody in his mid-60s, at least he was in his mid-60s. He's progressed a little bit beyond that today. But in his mid-60s, all the way back in the year of 2013, Bob realized that if he was going to retire within the next 2 to 3 years, regardless of how much money he accumulated, it probably was not going to last for another 20 or 30 years. And he recognized at that age that he had a retirement problem. Now, let me explain the retirement problem to you. The retirement problem is this, and it's probably exactly what you were doing. The retirement problem is that he had accumulated a lot of money throughout his working career. He had made it into his 60s, and he realized after listening to Lifestyles Unlimited on the radio, specifically our founder and CEO, Del Walmsley, that he himself had a retirement problem. And he needed to do something about that because he did not want to be at the end of his life and completely out of money. So what did Bob do? Well, Bob does what any smart engineer does. He goes out and he seeks information. So what he did, and he was living in Colorado at the time, he actually came back to Austin, Texas, and he had an opportunity to attend what we call our case study. Now, our case study is an event where, well, it's a members-only event, but it's the only members-only event that we do that we allow non-members to participate in. And Bob at that time was a non-member. He was invited to attend a case study, so he showed up. Now, in that case study, he was presented information from other Lifestyles Unlimited members. Now, he wasn't a member yet, but he was on his path to become a member. He listened to 2 different members talk about recent single-family investments they had completed. And more importantly, they opened up the books and they showed all of the returns. And then another member got up on stage and started talking about a multifamily investment. And at that point, Bob realized that he had found what he was looking for, and he became a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. Now, since that time, Bob has taken everything that we teach to heart. He has not only retired himself, he's retired his beautiful wife, and he is also focused on what we like to call legacy. In other words, he has given the gift of real estate investment to his daughter, Janine. And she, in her own right, is a very accomplished real estate investor. So what we're going to do today on Tell Al Tuesday is we're going to bring Bob onto the show because I want you to get inside of his mind. I want you to understand that no matter where you are in relation to retirement and your working career, and even if you think that what you're doing is going to make sense in the end, or maybe it's not, I want you to listen to the advice that Bob is going to share with you, because he's going to tell you that there's a completely different path that you could follow, a completely different path that society hasn't bothered to share with you, because all society is concerned about is stuffing money into glorified savings programs, which we call 401ks, IRAs, self-directed this, self-directed that, those education things. Okay, they're all controlled by the government, and they control whether you can touch your money. It's a bad idea. The better idea is to do exactly what Bob did. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring Bob onto the show, and we're going to get inside of his mind. Bob, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Al, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, and I'm looking forward to share the story of my lifestyle story with you.
So did I get the beginnings correct? I mean, were you literally in your 60s concerned that retirement was going to fail you maybe in your 70s, your 80s, or possibly your 90s?
Well, yeah. I mean, it pretty much is exactly like you said. I was, I was in the engineering and construction business for 40 years. And over that time, I did a lot of investing in stocks and bonds and all of the traditional methods. I had a 401k and I had an IRA, and, I followed it on a daily basis, and I watched it go up and I watched it go down. And over time, of course, it went up. And, I was getting in my mid-60s, and I'm thinking, well, it must be time to retire. That's what everybody tells you. And lo and behold, I look at this big pile of money I have, and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to maintain my lifestyle and live off of this pile of money when the stock market is going up and the stock market is going down, and I'm actually no longer contributing to the IRA. I'm just taking money out of it.
Have you been watching what's been going on in the stock market this year?
Well, of course. I still have a habit of looking at the stock market, and I still have a very small IRA that I watch occasionally, although it's really in very conservative investments now, like gold and silver.
We have Bob on with us today, and we're going to get into Bob's mind because I want you to understand that Bob, even though he was in his 60s when he discovered Lifestyles Unlimited, he was still open to the fact that there was clearly a different approach to real estate investing or investing in general. Not just real estate investing, but investing in general, because as Bob pointed out to you in the last segment, he was doing exactly what you're probably doing now. He was putting money into 401ks and IRAs and everything that was controlled by the government. And at the ripe old age of 64, he realized that he had a big retirement problem. So what did he do? Well, he went ahead and tackled the problem. He became a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. We put him through our educational program. And you know what Bob did? You want to know what his result was? Bob, can I share your result? Is it okay if I steal your thunder and share the result that you achieved in 14 months with them?
Sure.
You retired yourself, didn't you?
I did.
How in the heck did you do that, Bob? I mean, holy smokes, we tell people it takes about 5 years on average to get themselves retired. Now, I did it in a little over 2 years, but you did it in 14 months. How did you pull that off? Did you have guns and masks by any chance?
No guns, no masks. Really, I was, like I said earlier, I was on the path to retirement, but I was struggling with the ability to actually make it through retirement. So, I went to the Lifestyles case study. I was very interested at that point, but to be very honest with you, I was very skeptical. And, having been an investor for quite some time in other things, I knew that, maybe if I dip my toe in the water, I can see whether this really works or not. So I joined in the preferred member group, and which offers you the opportunity to invest in multifamily deals, and without doing any work, and so you contribute an amount of money, and then on a quarterly basis, you get a check from the lead investor who is actually running the deal. And so I invested in 2 or 3 of these, and, one of them first, just to get the feel for how it worked and to see if it really worked. The first deal I invested in was a phenomenal deal. It started paying me immediately. The second deal I invested in was very similar. And the third deal I invested in was very similar. And so I invested in these 3 deals in my first year of membership. And at that point, I was convinced that I would have cash flow and I would be able to generate enough money to retire with the funds I had. And by investing more, I could even do better than that. So that's the path I took. And then when I invested actually in my third deal, that I got to the point where I decided, well, I'm going to retire because I now know that I have a path to retire now and live the lifestyle, at least the lifestyle that I'm already living, and probably do better than that.
Did your wife, Diane, think you had lost your mind when you came home and told her that you were going to do this, or was she on board with this whole thing?
Well, Diane, she trusts my judgment, and she and, of course, my kids and everybody else I knew thought I lost my mind because I was very, very I was very convinced that, investing the way everyone tells you to invest was the right way for so long. I mean, I taught my kids that this is what you do. You get an IRA, you get a 401k, you invest on a monthly basis, and at the end of the day, you're going to be fine. So, they probably thought I had lost my mind, but, they also trusted my judgment to one degree or another.
So when you told them 14 months later that this formula that you were following, this roadmap, if you will, had retired you, what was the reaction then? Were they in disbelief, or were they firmly on board by this time that this was actually legit?
I think by this time they were probably firmly on board because it's like my wife was on board all along. I mean, to one degree or another, and like my daughter, they would come over for dinner, and we would talk about the experiences we were having, and she would see that I'd have a check on the table, for a quarterly distribution, and they started asking in questions, and they were very interested.
So they were seeing you achieve the results you were looking for, and they were understanding that, first of all, you wouldn't go into something that would be super risky. I mean, is that a fair statement?
They were thinking I was getting into something super risky. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Okay,
but over time, you were able to convince them that no, this is legit because they're seeing the checks. They're understanding that you're on this path. They're probably a little, thinking, hey, Dad, it's going to be okay when this thing falls apart. We're going to be there to lift you up. I'm thinking that's what they're thinking, right? You're thinking this is legit. This is going to work. So at that 14-month mark, you retired yourself. What did you tell your boss? How did you wreck your career, Bob?
How did I end my career? Well, at that point, I had actually moved from Colorado. I was still working for a company in Colorado, but I was working from home. And I had pretty much laid the groundwork with my boss, who actually was a good friend of mine as well. Now, he did think I was crazy, but I just told him, well, it was time, and adios, and that sort of thing. And ironically, he continued to call me probably for the next year, wanting, thinking that I was rethinking this thing and that I would want to come back. But each time I told him, it wasn't going to happen. I was comfortable with retirement, and I was doing well.
Well, it sounds like you had 100% of the control in that scenario, Bob. As a matter of fact, when you retired yourself at that 14-month mark in your life, that's when you regained all the control that you gave away when you were a young man. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what he's doing with it. Stick around.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, not because that's the way it's set up, but because of the knowledge.
When put into action, knowledge is power. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we empower you to live the lifestyle of your dreams through passive real estate income. For over 30 years, our successful members have shared their knowledge through case studies, classes, and mentoring. Tap into that knowledge. Attend a free workshop online. Register now at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to Tell Al Tuesday, and with me today I have Bob, a Lifestyles Unlimited member who retired himself at the age of 65 after being a member for only 14 months. And what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to get into the how. How did he do it? Why did he choose to do it a certain way? This is very, very important information for you to hear, because what you're going to hear in a moment is you're going to hear wisdom. You're going to hear somebody tell you how he got it done. And this is important because it may be the path that you need to follow. Or if it's not the path for you to follow, there's going to be plenty of information that we're about ready to share with you that's going to get you onto that right path. So buckle up, because I'm going to unleash Bob on you right now. So Bob, when you got started, you went out and found three separate deals that seemed to do what you needed to do. What was your investing strategy back in 2013 when you first joined? What kind of deal flow were you looking for?
Okay, well, my intention was to retire, and so I decided we were going to go the passive route, and we were going to invest in other lifestyle deals, and we were going to get a quarterly check or cash flow or equity gains, all of that stuff, over time. And that would supplement what I had in savings or whatever. So that was my plan going in. And so after 14 months, I retired. And, I was like in hog heaven for the first 2 or 3 months, sitting on my deck, drinking coffee and enjoying the beautiful Central Texas hill country, from my deck. And to be very honest with you, I pretty much realized right at that point or shortly thereafter that, sitting around and in retirement, enjoying the countryside was not really probably my cup of tea. I need something to do beyond just hanging around and taking nice vacations and stuff like that.
Even though you're living a Norman Rockwell type of lifestyle, you're getting antsy, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm just not built to sit around.
Okay, so being the totally lazy retiree is completely out of your wheelhouse. So what did you do to remedy that? Did you change your investing strategy?
No, I didn't immediately change it, actually. I'm a spreadsheet nerd, you might call it, and I love analyzing things. And so I learned from Lifestyles how to analyze multifamily property deals. And so I took it upon myself to start analyzing these deals, looking at them. I'd look at these deals, and my intent was to break the deal. So you see a deal from a broker, it comes in, it's $5 million. You run all the numbers on it using the Lifestyle spreadsheet, and you determine, what can I actually buy this for? And a lot of deals that you analyze, you realize right away or shortly thereafter that, this deal is not going to work. So I was kind of proving to myself that, there were no deals out there to buy. Well, all of a sudden, one day, I found this little property in San Antonio. And after I had analyzed the deal, I realized this is a really good deal. And, I need to do something about it. So to make a long story short, we bought it. It was a 53-unit property in South San Antonio. And, I used a lot of the skills that I had obtained in the engineering and construction business as a project manager. I used a lot of those same skills in doing upgrades on the units and hiring a manager and a maintenance guy and, all of the various things you do in business. And the deal turned out very well. It was a huge success. I had 12 investors with me that were willing to contribute money into this deal, and they were my passive investors. And bottom line, it went real well. At the end of the day, after 2.5 years, I returned 248% after giving back their original contribution.
All right, stop right there, Bob. Stop right there, because we got to break that down. I don't think people understand exactly what you just told them. So let's discuss the money flow. If I had invested with you, and I wasn't even a member of Lifestyles Unlimited when you took down this particular asset and bought it not only for yourself but for 12 other families that invested with you, you were the lead investor, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if I had put $100,000 into that deal, when you sold it not too long afterwards, what was that, maybe 3 years-ish, give or take?
2.8 years.
2.8 years. Okay. So 2.8 years, not only did you give me my $100,000 back, but you gave me a check for about $248,000, which represented my returns on investment. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, not absolutely correct, because that includes the money that they received on a quarterly basis, in cash flow.
Okay.
And that also includes a refi that I did after about a year. So after about a year, I gave them 100% of their money back.
Wow. So I'm imagining this, because I've had this scenario happen to me as a Lifestyles Unlimited member. I invest with you, Bob. I give you $100,000. A year later, you give me back my money. There's no taxable event because you did a refinance on your property. And in doing so, you were able to give me back all of my capital. There's no taxes charged for doing that, correct?
Exactly.
And now I got $100,000 I can go buy into another deal with. So now me as a passive investor, not only do I have all my money back, I can be a member in your deal. Plus, I've got money to buy into maybe another deal. Possibly you have another one available, because I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing here. And this is how we do it in real estate, is it not, Bob? I mean, this is how you did it. You found quality assets to invest in. You put your money to work in those assets. You either invested with other people that were doing the heavy lifting, or in this particular case, you got off your porch and you started doing the heavy lifting in your mid-60s. I mean, wasn't that just like a blow to your ego?
A blow to my ego. Well, in reality, I had more fun on that first deal than I've ever had in my life, to be honest.
Wait a minute. Now you're saying real estate investing is fun too?
Well, to me, that was a lot of fun because, in the corporate world, you're working for another guy. You're working for the man, right?
Right.
In real estate, I mean, in this business, I am the man, and I'm working for myself, and I'm working for my investors. And, there's no greater feeling than paying an investor, 248% of what they gave you after you've given them the 100% back. There's no better feeling in the world than improving, buying and improving a property, and a resident coming up to you and thanking you for putting in a new playground when they didn't have a playground before.
Tell Al Tuesday with the Al and Bob Show. We are delivering to you the information that you came here to get. And I will tell you this, when you have the opportunity to sit down and speak with a seasoned investor such as Bob, your mind will be filled with all kinds of great information. And that's part of our culture at Lifestyles Unlimited. When you become a member, people like Bob are accessible to you. Believe it or not, you could actually walk up to Bob, you could actually introduce yourself, and you could have a conversation with Bob, and you could ask Bob just about any particular question, real estate related, right, Bob?
Yes.
You're also okay with making friends too, right? I mean, it's okay for these contacts that you're making in Lifestyles Unlimited to actually be part of your friendship network. Does that happen?
Well, that's actually an understatement, Al. Most of our friends now are Lifestyles members. We have cultivated friendships with many of the other members, with other leads. I mean, we go on vacations with them. We go to meetups. We go to Lifestyles events. It's basically it's as much a social network as it is a business, a mentoring group. And that's kind of like the dirty little secret of Lifestyles is, a lot of members, their life kind of revolves around it. I mean, it becomes your entire, not your entire network, but, a lot of friends and associates, it becomes your lifestyle to one degree or another.
Yeah, I agree with you, because what I have found by hanging out with people that think the way I do, it reinforces the education that I've received, and it also allows my mind to experiment. What I mean by experiment is I can run ideas past these fellow members because they're all equally educated. I mean, Bob, you and I could actually sit down over coffee and we could talk about the different aspects of taking down a multifamily asset as a lead investor, and you and I can have a conversation and not miss a beat. It's because we have the same information available to us, and we use that same information to advance what we're trying to do for ourselves and our families. Would you agree?
I would agree 100%.
Now, since we're talking about family, I happen to know a young lady by the name of Janine. Have you ever met her by any chance?
I have. I have met Janine many times. In fact, she's my daughter.
Oh, well, that would explain why you know her. So why is it that I know Janine? How is it that a guy like me who doesn't live in Austin, I live probably about 90 miles away from where you and Diane live. How is it a guy like me gets to know a person like Janine, who's your daughter?
Well, you know Janine because, after I had done 3 deals and after I had done 1 deal, like I said earlier, her and her husband, they would come to the house and they would hear us talking about Lifestyles, and they would hear us talking about our deals, and they became very, very interested. And before I knew it, they had gone to a case study, and they had gone to a 2-day, and they had joined Lifestyles. And when I was doing my second deal, I was already starting to think, I'm really enjoying this and everything, but in reality, I am not the young man that I used to be. And I would eventually transition out of being a lead investor and more being a passive investor. And at least this has always been my dream, whether or not I ever fulfill it. And so Janine took on the response. When I bought the second property, she became the lead operations manager of that property, and also my third property. And now she has gone on, her and her husband. Her husband, by the way, is now retired as well, using the Lifestyles model. And she and her husband have retired now using the Lifestyles model, and they have now purchased 4 multifamily properties on their own.
How old are they by any chance? Would you care to do, let the cat out of the bag?
They are in their early 40s.
Okay, early 40s, and just by doing what Dad showed them worked, they are no longer battling corporate America. They're no longer essentially working for somebody else. They're working for themselves. Are they flourishing, Bob?
Oh, they are really flourishing. They've invested themselves in about 25 passive multifamily deals in addition to the 4 properties that they are leads on. So they are flourishing. Many of their passives are flourishing. I mean, this is, it just keeps carrying forward, passing forward. It's just a great organization, and it's a great concept. It's working very well for them.
Yeah, I think it's working swimmingly well, not only for them, but for you and Diane, also for Tina and I, as well as the other 50,000 members of Lifestyles Unlimited that do what we teach them to do, right? I mean, I think it's fair to say that all the education in the world, regardless of how on point it is or maybe how esoteric it is, it fails if the individual does not put it into practice. Would you agree?
That's the whole secret. You got to take action.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. So have you seen people that join Lifestyles Unlimited that, maybe they get a little nervous and they're not sure it's going to work? Have you experienced folks like that?
Well, yes, I have. I've talked to many that have felt that. And like I said earlier, I was very skeptical when I joined. But the key is, okay, if you're skeptical, you need to test it. You need to try it out. And once you've tried it out, I think most people recognize that this is a good model to follow, a good map. And, it allows a lot of, the map is different for everybody. I mean, it depends on your particular situation, and such. So it allows a lot of flexibility in the path you take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your experience is a shining example of that. I mean, here's a guy in his 60s that comes on board and decides, okay, I'm trying to retire myself for good, and he starts investing passively and then realizes that he's bored in retirement. So what does he do? He takes on what I would consider to be the toughest path in Lifestyles Unlimited. He becomes a lead investor, which means you take on a fiduciary obligation with all those people that invest with you, and you take it absolutely seriously, and you knock these investments out of the park. Because I'm looking at the returns. I'm not going to get into that right now. And then you pass this information on to your children, specifically Janine and her husband, who take that information and they put it to work, and they get themselves retired in their 40s. Bob, how come you and I didn't get retired in our 40s? What's wrong with us?
Well, we didn't know about Lifestyles.
That's true. That's totally true. You know, I found Lifestyles Unlimited the same way you did. I mean, I was listening to the radio going to church with my son. My son goes, this sounds pretty good. And I go, and I was the skeptical guy, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a train wreck, right? And he's like, well, let's go check it out. And I'm like, no, this is a bad idea. So I begrudgingly went with my son to listen to the information about Lifestyles Unlimited. And then I joined because he decided to join, specifically because I was going to protect him from whatever craziness these people were going to convey to us. And we go and we sit in the 2-day financial freedom seminar, and I could not destroy any argument that was being presented to me. As a matter of fact, I remember my aha moment during the 2-day. Now, for those of you that don't understand what I'm talking about, the 2-day is the financial freedom seminar that every member of Lifestyles Unlimited goes through. We all have to have the basic footprint of information. So, Bob, when you went through the 2-day back in 2013, what was that one thing that just stood out to you that made you go, okay, skepticism is done?
Well, I can honestly say I was still skeptical even after the 2-day, but
Fair enough.
I felt it was worth trying.
And you tried, didn't you?
And I did, yeah.
And how are your results today?
Oh, the results are spectacular. I'm very pleased.
Indeed, Bob, indeed. As a matter of fact, I know because you told me the cash flow that you received from your passive investing and your lead investing has given you the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want to, and never have to worry again about whether or not you're going to outlive your retirement funds. Now that, to me, is living the lifestyle, and you can do so yourselves.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.